Master of Ceremonies, Mr. Benroy Harris, President of SRC Swetes Reunion Committee, Incorporated, Mr. Denley Burton, and members of the Executive Board and General Membership, Chairman of the Antigua and Barbuda Associations United, Mr. Andy Howell. Ladies and gentlemen, first I want to thank Mr. Vincent Jarvis for his kind words of introduction. Before I go any further, please allow me to thank you, our guests, for being such a lovely and cooperative audience. Words alone cannot express how appreciative we are for your presence here this evening as you continue to partner with us in our charitable endeavors to our beloved Swetes community in the beautiful Twin Island nation of Antigua and Barbuda. It is an honor and a distinct privilege to bring the keynote address at this, the 13th annual SRC dinner dance under the theme, Give a Little, Change a Lot. We thank God for bringing us thus far, and it is our prayers that He will continue to see us through all of our goals and objectives. I want to briefly express a few thoughts this evening as it relates to our theme. I promise you I won't be too long, because the last thing I need is for a few disgruntled guests to start pelting their utensils at me for speaking too long. I know we all want to socialize and also get to the dance floor, and even though I have two right foot, I would like to get to the dance floor as well. Give a little, change a lot. Some may hear this statement and instantly think of it as being idealistic and not being practical. How can you give a little and expect to change a lot? It is still evident in the way we still see many individuals who are under the false notion that for them to make an impact or make a difference in our world with the contribution of their God-given resources, they must be able to give in abundance. The truth be told that whatever little with which we are uniquely blessed, we can, and I repeat, we can give a little to change a lot. You know, the Almighty has structured the world in such a way in which we are not only dependent upon Him, but we're all dependent upon each other. John Donne was right when he said some time ago, no man is an island entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the man. Every man's death diminishes me because I am involved in mankind. Therefore never send for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee. None of us are expected to function in isolation. I refuse to believe that this is the intention of our Creator. As we think of giving a little to change a lot, let us be mindful of the collective concept associated with giving. There is something about the pronoun we that just sort of gets me excited. The pronoun we is just so powerful, and at times we miss the magnitude of the power and we get caught up in our own individual egos. I this and I that. You know, there's so much power in collaborating with people of like minds. I recently heard of 5 young ladies who I can truly say understand the power of we. These 5 young ladies, known as the Team Antigua Island Girls, are involved in a rowing competition. They are the first all-female Caribbean team and the first all-black team to ever cross any ocean. They departed from the Canary Islands in Spain over 40 days ago and had been rowing across the treacherous waters of the Atlantic Ocean. They are expected to arrive in English Harbor in Antigua within a few days, where many proud fellow nationals will welcome them in appreciation of their historical accomplishment. You see, we enter this world in a real dependent manner as infants, where we are expected to depend on our mothers and fathers in most cases. We later progress to the next level of maturity called independence, where we learn to do more for self. The next and most important level of maturity is the God-intended level called interdependence. This is the level where we realize we truly need each other. My weakness may be your strength, and your weakness may be my strength. You know, a friend of mine asked me recently, Steve, what is success to you? Well, what does it mean to be successful? You know, I said to my friend, when I was a much younger man, I thought it meant having more than enough money to do anything I wanted to do. I went on to share with my friend that as I've grown and continue to evolve, I realized that success entails so much more than I once thought. As my paradigm shifted, I came to the conclusion that there can be no success if only one life or a mere few lives are affected positively. Success means that as many lives as possible are elevated, enhanced, and empowered, making it multidimensional in definition. How can one be successful if he's only rich in wealth and financial resources, but has no family or friends with whom he can share, interact, and socialize? Success also means to be rich in love and health, rich in friendship, and rich, most definitely, rich in relationships. My friends, in a real sense, none of us is going anywhere until all of us are going somewhere. You know, Dr. King also shared some time ago, all life is interrelated. All men are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. And you can never be what you ought to be until I am what I ought to be. See, this is the real interrelated structure of reality. And so, my friends, we live in an interdependent reality. You know, it was such a great and rewarding feeling a few years ago at our last Swetes Community Village reunion in 2016, where we had the opportunity to not only distribute bags of toiletries to our seniors in the village, but also had a morning where we allowed them to assemble in the auditorium of the Irene B. Williams School as we served them breakfast. We were blessed to sit and interact with them as they shared stories and history and expressed how much they were grateful for all that we were doing as we gave a little to change a lot. Another important aspect of our theme on which I want to elaborate briefly is the fact that our minds have become so conditioned to first think of money and material possessions when we hear the word give. You know, I must caution you this evening that as valuable and as necessary as money is, it is not the greatest commodity in life. Time is man's greatest commodity. Let me just repeat that. Time is man's greatest commodity. Many of us are experts in giving our time to our respective jobs and professions, and rightfully so. It is certainly the responsible thing to do. Our jobs and professions allow us to make our living and help us to financially take care of ourselves, our families, our homes, and financial obligations. However, I want to encourage us all here this evening to seek ways of becoming engaged and involved in the giving of our time to something that is bigger than ourselves. A great orator reminded us some time ago, one of life's most persistent questions is, what are you doing for others? And I believe it is fair to say that whether it be SRC, Swetes Reunion Committee Incorporated, Children of Freetown Association, Sons and Daughters of Willikies Incorporated, and the Virgin Islands Freshwater Association, or any other community-based organization, we are always in recruiting mode. We are always recruiting members or supporters. There's certainly no shortage of organizations in which we can all serve and contribute our time. I would be remiss if I also didn't mention the impactful non-partisan organization called ABCRE, Antiguans and Barbudans for Constitutional Reform and Education, whom, although has an executive board, is always seeking to help in sharing and educating as many nationals and citizens of Antigua and Barbuda, at home or in the diaspora, on our constitutional laws as we continue to give a little to change a lot in our homeland. Time is such a unique resource because you cannot truly borrow it. You cannot truly store it. You cannot truly renew or multiply it. All that we can do with time is spend it. Unlike other resources such as talent, education, or money, we all have the same exact number of hours and minutes in each day. You know, rich people can buy a lot of things, but they cannot buy more hours in a day. Scientists can create many amazing and creative inventions, but they cannot buy more hours in a day. Let us use the resource of time adequately in giving to something bigger than ourselves. When we think of giving, let us recognize our greatest commodity of time. You see, we will all run out of time before we run out of money. The question before us this evening is, what are we going to do with this great commodity called time? Always remember that time is neutral and that it can be used negatively or positively, destructively or constructively. In seeking to uplift and affect our lives, other lives, let us seek ways to give a little to change a lot. A vital and critical point I also wanted to share this evening, as it relates to our theme, is the fact that we're all blessed with not only different gifts and talents, but also with different amounts of resources. This is certainly no coincidence, but another deliberate way in which our world was created and structured. There's a very interesting book that I like to read ever so often. You know, I'm still an amateur on this book, but it has many practical principles by which we can all live. Many of you are familiar with this book. It can be read at home or anywhere, but many have a habit of only reading it on Saturdays and Sundays in structures called churches. I believe you know the book I'm referring to. You know, the parable is told of the master distributing some talents and gifts to his servants before he went on a long journey. To one he gave 5 talents. To one he gave 2 talents. And another 1 talent. Now they were not expected to just sit down with their arms folded with these talents and expect something to happen by osmosis. To summarize, the master was so pleased that upon his return, that the servants who received 5 and 2 talents respectively went out, took action, and invested in some good stocks and bonds, and certainly worked their God-given talent. They were able to present their master with a double return on his investment. You know, there's something miraculous about taking action and being intentional. You know, as John Maxwell shared, when you're intentional, you can add value to everything you do and every person you meet. Sadly, the servant who received 1 talent thought he was at a disadvantage, and that because he only got 1 talent, he was justified in not doing anything with it. The master was so displeased and casted him into the outer darkness according to the scriptures. His 1 talent was taken away from him and given to the one who ended up with 10 talents. The point and life lesson to this profound parable is that we are to use whatever we're given, not just to meet our own needs, but reach out and help meet the needs of our neighbors. The scripture also go on to say that to whom much is given, much is required. This means that our time, our gifts, our skills, and our talents are expected to yield results based on the amount we're given in impacting the lives of others, as we strive to give a little to change a lot. You know, my wife and I were blessed in August of 2017 in going on an Africa Incorporated-led service trip to Malawi in southeastern Africa. Upon our arrival, as expected, we were filled with excitement and anticipation as we set foot on the soils of the motherland for the very first time after landing in the city of Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. We later flew on to Lilongwe, Malawi. It had always been a dream of mine to visit our ancestral home, the great continent of Africa. As we joined the rest of the team, and started to go out into the villages, I was filled with so much compassion as to the impoverished state of the standard of living of these brothers and sisters. Many of them had not seen a doctor or dentist in many years. As a team, we didn't have no enormous amount of money and financial resources, but we had the opportunity to share the invaluable gift of time with them. They lived in very primitive conditions. Our health professionals administered blood count and blood pressure checking. Our culinary specialists taught and cooked a few meals for them. Used clothing were distributed, and English was taught, and most importantly, we interacted and socialized with them. These experiences will forever remain ingrained in my mind as long as the Almighty continues to bless me with breath. It was such a humbling experience. My friends, people may forget what you said, but they will never forget how you made them feel. In Malawi, it was evident to me that what many of us may classify as too little may be considered a lot for others. Some may have a lot of wealth and may share it as a means of displaying arrogance and to be seen, but some may have very little to share and share it genuinely. My friends, I learned some time ago that nothing from some is more than gold from others. Let us all remember to make a difference in the lives of others. We don't have to be gorgeous, rich, famous, or brilliant. We simply have to care. It is so unfortunate we have leaders in our world who are more interested in building walls of division instead of building bridges of love and compassion. Just before I take my seat, so we could get to the dance floor and the rest of the evening, please allow me to share a short story.
Very short.
A young man named John was given a book some time ago. Being an avid reader, he was filled with excitement and couldn't wait to rip the gift wrap and plastic off and plunged into the content of this book. He was so astonished that upon the opening of this book, it was filled with all blank pages. He thought to himself that this must be a mistake. He looked back into the gift bag and discovered a note that seemed to have fallen off the gift. The note read, "John, your life is ahead of you. Fill the pages of this blank book with great stories of your life." I want to encourage us all here this evening to fill the books of our lives with great stories of serving and giving to others. Let us use all the gifts with which we are blessed in giving a little to change a lot. Just imagine with me for a second if everyone in the world took on the servanthood mentality. We would all get up every day in anticipation of whom are we going to serve today? Whom am I going to help? Especially someone who cannot repay me. Leo Boscalja eloquently shared some time ago, it's not enough to have lived. We should be determined to live for something. May I suggest that it be creating joy for others, sharing what we have for the betterment of personkind, bringing hope to the lost and love to the lonely. This is such an accurate assessment. It is not important that we live, but live well. In closing, I just wanted to encourage us all here this evening to launch ourselves into the stratosphere of service. This is the true meaning of our theme, in giving a little to change a lot. At times we may still ask and doubt ourselves. We might be asking, what could I do to have an impact? What could I contribute to make a difference? We may get involved in organizations with limited resources and may still allow doubt and fear to creep in. My friends, I stand here this evening with conviction in my heart, and I want to tell you that you should never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing ever has, according to Margaret Mead. Before I walk away from the podium, I feel the need to drop something else in your spirit. And I hope that if you take nothing else away from what I've shared this evening, I have it posted around my residence and it greets me with inspiration every morning. It says, I expect to pass through this world but once. Any good, therefore, that I can do or any kindness that I can show to any fellow creature, let me do it now. Let me not defer or neglect it, for I shall not pass this way again. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, let us all continue to do our part in giving a little to change a lot. Thank you.